Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So this video is going to be all about gin. So essentially what gin is just an elevated, more flavorful version of vodka because it's a neutral grain spirit distilled from either wheat, barley, corn, or rye. And by law, it has to be primarily flavored with juniper berries. You can add other flavors in there such as coriander, citrus peels, but the main flavor component has to be juniper. So gin was invented in the 1500s by Dutch scientist Dr. Franciscus Sylvius, and he invented it for medicinal purposes. And gin actually evolved from another Dutch spirit called Genever, but I'm going to cover that in a future video. And gin was also being produced in England, but it didn't really become popular until the late 1600s to the early 1700s, during what was known as the gin craze. Because during this time, it was Sir William of Orange who restricted French brandy imports and encouraged local distillation, in this case, gin. So during this time in England, gin is starting to become a lot more popular and it started to evolve into different types of styles. And the most popular style is London Dry. So I'll give you my own personal experience with gin. So I was never really a big fan of gin. I didn't like this overly tonic type of flavor that you get from the gin. But once I started to get into cocktails, I noticed how really good and versatile gin can be in cocktails. So even if you're not a big fan of gin, it blends in really nicely into the cocktail. You don't really get that big juniper tonic type of flavor in the cocktail. So with this one here, now that I'm more used to gin, I actually don't mind this tonic floral type of flavor from the London Dry. Okay, so these are some more London Dry gins. So if you're not a big fan of the juniper flavor from the Beefeater, then I suggest the Brokers. It's very cost effective as well. It's similar price to the Beefeater at around $30 or so. The juniper flavor in this one is just a little bit more toned down. You also have Ford's. This is a pretty good one, but it's a little bit more expensive at around $45 or so. It's sometimes available in Ontario. It's a little bit more robust. Doesn't have as much as a juniper flavor as the Beefeater. This one here is pretty good. This one is Junipero, made in San Francisco. And hence the name, it's big on juniper flavor. Yeah, it's really nice and floral. It's got a higher alcohol content at about 47%. It's very similar to the Beefeater in terms of that juniper flavor. So of course with a name like Junipero, they're really going to give you that juniper flavor. So the next style of gin here is Plymouth. So in this one, the juniper flavor is a lot more toned down. It's a lot more smoother and earthier. And Plymouth is the only brand that actually makes a Plymouth style gin. Yeah, that's actually really nice. It's a lot more floral. You don't get as much of that juniper flavor. Okay, so this next category is New Western. So this is a style of gin similar to Plymouth where it's meant to tone down that juniper flavor. This one here is Bimini. Yeah, so this is an American gin. I think it's halfway in between what Plymouth is and like a London Dry gin. This one here is Hendrick's. Yeah, this one as well, you get some juniper in there, but this is a really cucumber forward gin, so it's really earthy and you get those cucumber flavors in there as well. This one here is the Botanist. It's an Islay Dry gin. Yeah, the juniper in here is toned down a bit too. This one I'd say is probably closer to Plymouth than Bimini is. So just note that all of these gins are quite pricey. I think the Bimini is not available in Ontario at the moment, but I think when I got it, it was around $45 or so. The Hendrick's is anywhere from $50 to $55, and the Botanist is in that same range as well. So this next style here is Navy Strength gin. So these are more higher proof gins, and the reason why it's called Navy Strength is because it was developed by the Navy in case the gin spilled on the ship. It wouldn't ignite the ship's gunpowder. So let's give this a bit of a smell. It's actually really similar to the normal Plymouth. You're not really picking up that it's a higher proof. You're not really picking up on more ethanol, so be careful with this one. So the first cocktail that I'm going to do is the Bee's Knees. So this cocktail was invented in the 1920s by Frank Meyer at the Café Parisien inside the Hotel Ritz in Paris. And the term Bee's Knees was just essentially slang back in those days for that's the best. So for this cocktail, we're going to need a London Dry gin, lemon juice, and honey syrup. So even though this cocktail was invented in the 1920s, it's one of the most popular gin cocktails today because not only is it an easy cocktail to make, But also thanks to the cocktail renaissance, we learned the origins of why this cocktail was invented. So the main purpose of this cocktail is the honey syrup, because it was used to mask that terrible flavor of bathtub gin at that time. So bathtub gin is a term given to any low quality alcohol that was made during the Prohibition era. So when Americans didn't have access to gin during Prohibition, a lot of people made gin at home, and they made them in their bathtubs because the sinks weren't big enough to hold the large vessels. And they would start off with a spirit such as moonshine, and they would cut it in half with water. Because this definitely wasn't the best quality of gin being made in the US at that time, because even though it also had a bad flavor, it can also make you go blind. So the flavor of this cocktail is really going to depend on how you make your honey syrup. You can either use a 1-to-1 ratio, a 2-to-1 ratio, or a 3-to-1 ratio. I think a 1-to-1 ratio would really dilute the honey flavor and it may not come through as much in the cocktail. A 3-to-1, however, I think would be a little bit too much of the honey flavor. So I cut it in half and I'm using a 2-to-1 honey syrup. So we're going to start off with 2 ounces of gin. Three-quarters of an ounce of lemon juice. And 3/4 of an ounce of honey syrup. Add ice. And shake for 12 to 15 seconds. Double strain into a chilled Angostura glass. So the original Garnish called for a lemon peel, but I'm going to do something a little bit more fun with the whole bees and honey pollination thing going on, so I'm going to garnish with the flower. And there you have the bee's knees. Cheers. Yeah, what I like about this drink is how it's so nice and complex with only 3 ingredients. You really don't get a lot of that big juniper flavor coming through from the beefeater. What you really got is the botanicals of the gin coming through, and the honey syrup just kind of brings everything together and it coats your mouth throughout the entire sip. So it's no wonder why this drink from the Prohibition era has become a modern classic, because it's a really good drink. So the next cocktail that I'm going to do is the Army and Navy. So this cocktail was first seen in print in 1948 in David Embry's book, The Fine Art of Mixing Drinks. So for this one, we're just going to swap out the honey syrup, bring in Orgeat, and Angostura bitters. So we're going to start off with 2 ounces of gin, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, three-quarters of an ounce of Orgeat, and 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. As if you guys didn't have enough Angostura bitters in the previous video. Add ice. Shake for 12 to 15 seconds. Double strain into a chilled Angostura glass. And there you have the Army and Navy. Cheers. This one's really soft, and again, you're not picking up on that big juniper flavors from the gin. You're really getting the botanicals again. You're getting a bit of the sweetness from the Orgeat, and you're actually not getting a lot of that bitterness from the Angostura. And then you have the lemon juice just giving some nice acidity. So this is a really good, nice, really light, balanced drink. So the next cocktail that I'm going to do is the Humuhumunukunukuapua'a. Say it with me. Humuhumunukunukuapua'a. So this cocktail was invented sometime after 2009 by Marcobaldo Dionysus for the book Smuggler's Cove. If I can, I'll always find time for a tiki cocktail in one of these videos. So for this cocktail, we're going to swap out the Angostura bitters for Peychaud bitters and pineapple juice. Just give it a bit of a shake. This is my defrosted, freshly juiced pineapple juice. So we're going to start off with 2 ounces of gin, 3/4 of an ounce of pineapple juice, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, half an ounce of Orgeat, and 2 dashes of Peychaud bitters. Add a scoop of pebble ice. And because I'm going to be serving this over pebble ice, I am only going to shake for about 10 seconds. Fill an old-fashioned tiki glass with pebble ice. Open pour. Put it in a straw, top off with pebble ice. So what's not going to be so simple about this cocktail is the garnish. So this cocktail calls to be garnished with an orchid. So unfortunately, you have to buy an orchid plant. I don't know where you can buy individual orchids. If you want, you can just buy fake orchids off of Amazon, so it's entirely up to you. I have such an expensive hobby. Garnish with an orchid and maraschino cherries. And there you have the Humuhumunukunukuapua'a. Cheers. Up front, you're getting the pineapple juice, and then you're getting the sweetness from the Orgeat, and then you're getting the sourness from the lemon juice. I don't know if I'm really getting the Peychaud bitters as much. It gives the drink a nice kind of like a pink hue. The gin, you really don't get it at all. It's maybe you're getting a little bit of that juniper type of flavor on the back end. It's a rare tiki cocktail with gin. There aren't too many of them, so if you don't want a boozy tiki cocktail with rum, then you can have this one with gin. It's a mix of everything. It's very soft and delicate. It's sweet. It's sour. It's a really nice, light and pretty drink. Okay, so that's it for today. So just to recap here, so if you're someone who thinks that you really don't like gin because of that big flavor, then you should really give these a try, because though gin has that big juniper flavor, it blends in really nicely to cocktails. Especially this one here, I really like Beefeater. It's a really good workhorse, it's cost effective, and it works in a lot of cocktails. I hope this video was as much fun for you as it was for me. Hit that like and subscribe button, follow me on Instagram for more recipes, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!